being an account of how two young men from Mulanje discovered that fame comes in many forms, not all of them suitable for family viewing. The sun that afternoon was not content with merely being hot. It had apparently decided to audition for the role of Satan's personal space heater. Even the dogs had given up barking and lay panting in whatever shade they could find, their tongues hanging out like pink flags of surrender. My friend Quinn sat in my mother's favorite chair, fanning himself with a copy of the Nation newspaper. The headline read, "Chakwera promises better days ahead." "Bro," Quinn announced, his voice carrying the weight of a man who had just discovered the meaning of suffering. "If we don't sambira lero, they will find our bodies here like tumbamus of Nsima left too long in the sun." I nodded solemnly. We had already tried everything. Cold showers, the water was warm, sitting under the fan, it was pushing hot air, and even contemplating a visit to my grandmother's village where she claimed the breeze was blessed by the ancestors. Nothing had worked. "The golf club pool," I said suddenly. "I heard it's only $1.5 each for the whole fucking day." Quinn's eyes lit up, impressed. "Brother, that is the most intelligent thing you have said since you told me penguins marched from the South Pole to the Middle East to get in Noah's Ark." He paused. "Though you were definitely wrong about that." The pool at Mulanje Golf Club was so blue it looked like someone had dissolved the sky in chlorine. We paid our money to a security guard who looked at us as though he had information that we were planning to steal the water itself, changed into our swimming attire, and prepared for paradise. My swimming trunks were a relic from my cousin Chimwemwe, who had apparently been built like a small buffalo. They hung on me like a deflated tent. Quinn's, on the other hand, were so tight they cut off circulation to his balls. We entered the water with all the elegance of 2 sacks of maize being thrown from a truck. But oh, the relief, the coolness. For 47 glorious minutes we were kings of our chlorinated kingdom. We floated on our backs, staring at the sky and discussing profound questions. Then the white tourists arrived. Now, I must pause here to explain something that every Malawian knows, but rarely discusses. The magical transformation that occurs when white visitors appear at local establishments. It is as if some invisible director has shouted, "Action!" and suddenly everyone is performing in a play called "We Are Sophisticated Africans Who Definitely Know About Wine." The pool attendant, who had been moving like a man in a trance, suddenly developed the energy of a caffeinated squirrel. The bartender discovered he could make cocktails with little umbrellas. Even the gardener began trimming bushes with the precision of a heart surgeon. And Quinn, sweet, delusional Quinn, looked at the blonde lady, and I could literally see his brain rewiring itself. "Watch me work." And before I could stop him, he was swimming toward her with the confidence of a man who had never been rejected in his life. "Good afternoon, beautiful madam," Quinn announced, surfacing next to her like a well-mannered dolphin. "I am Edwin Quindaquera, but my associates call me Quinn. Might I be so bold as to inquire about your nation of origin?" I nearly drowned from second-hand embarrassment. Quinn had never said associates in his life. Yesterday he had called me Mbuyanga when introducing me to his cousin. But the blonde lady, Sarah, as she would later introduce herself, smiled like she had just discovered a talking parrot. "Oh my goodness, how charming! We're from Manchester. I'm Sarah, and this is Lucy." She gestured to her brunette friend, who was watching this interaction with the fascinated expression of someone observing a nature documentary about mating rituals. Quinn, emboldened by not being immediately rejected, pressed on. "Ah, Manchester, the city of many things. I have always admired your British ways. The tea drinking, the queue forming, very civilized. I realized I had two choices: let my friend embarrass himself alone or join him in what was clearly going to be a spectacular failure. Friendship, I decided, means sharing in each other's disasters. Indeed, I announced, swimming over with the dignity of a man who definitely knew what he was talking about. I myself am quite fond of your British culture, the weather discussions, the football of Manchester United. Very red. Lucy raised an eyebrow. Oh, really? Who's your favorite player? My mind went completely blank. Every football player I had ever heard of vanished from my memory like smoke. The one with the fast legs? She burst into laughter. Not the cruel laughter of someone mocking a fool, but genuine delight. Oh my God, you're adorable. And just like that, we were in. What followed was the most successful international relations project in Malawian history. Sarah and Lucy turned out to be exactly the kind of tourists who think everything local is authentic and amazing. They were delighted by our accents, charmed by our stories, and impressed by our deep connection to African culture. I told them about the time I had to climb a tree to escape an angry goat, and they acted like I had just recounted an epic battle with a lion. Quinn described his job selling airtime as telecommunications consulting, and they nodded like he was explaining quantum physics. The drinks kept coming. The sun kept shining. The conversation kept flowing like the Shire River in rainy season. You know, Sarah said as the afternoon began to fade, we've got a lovely room at the Hapuani. Why don't you boys come over for dinner? We could cook something together, make it a proper cultural exchange. Quinn and I looked at each other. In that moment, we both thought the same thing. This is it. This is how we marry white ladies. That sounds delightful, I said, using a word I had never used before in my life. Absolutely smashing, Quinn added, apparently having decided he was now British. Their lodge room was bright, exceptionally bright. I assumed this was how rich people lived, with enough electricity to power a small village. There was also a lot of electronic equipment, which I figured was standard tourist gear. Cameras, lights, some kind of recording device. Probably for their travel blog or something. Maybe they were influencers. We could become famous on TikTok. Wow, I said, looking around. You ladies really like to document your travels. Oh, yes, Lucy said with a smile that should have come with a warning label. We're very thorough in our documentation. The evening began innocently enough. They opened wine and asked us about our lives, our dreams, our hopes for the future. I want to be a businessman, Quinn declared, the wine making him philosophical. Maybe export Malawian papayas to Manchester. I want to write, I added, feeling poetic. Tell stories about our people, our culture, our struggles and triumphs. How romantic, Sarah said. You African men are so passionate. And that, dear reader, was when the evening took a turn. Should we film this? Lucy suggested at some point. For memories? Yes, we said in unison. In that moment, all Quinn and I could think was, we are living the dream. We are international playboys. We are the Malawian James Bonds. The night stretched on like the most beautiful disaster in human history. We performed feats that would have impressed the ancient Greeks and embarrassed our ancestors. We were athletes, artists, and complete idiots all at the same time. One of the ladies, blonde, perky, and built like the gym was her church, leaned over and whispered, "Do you boys mind if we spice things up a little?" "Spice? Ma'am, we are from Malawi. We are the spice." Within seconds, Quinn was on the bed like a lion that had just taken down a gazelle, except the gazelle had D cups and a British passport. I was trying to keep it cool, unbuttoning my shirt slowly like I'd seen in movies, only for the button to pop off and hit her in the forehead. "Ha ha!" She laughed. I panicked. She kissed me. Crisis averted. Things escalated like fuel on a braai. Shirts flew. Bras vanished with the magic of colonial-era secrets. One of them, whispering in my ear, "Tell me something in your language." My brain fried. All I could come up with was, "Ndikufuna kukusenda natindapatsidwa, malangizo ndi malungu mwini." I want to pound you like God himself commanded me. Apparently, dirty Chichewa is a turn-on. We got to it. It wasn't just sex. It was international relations. My hips moved like I was chasing a rhythm only heard by ancestors, and she responded like she'd paid extra for the premium package. Quinn, on the other bed, was somewhere between a back massage and an exorcism. I looked over once and saw a leg in the air and a sock still on. Classic. They kept switching positions like it was a choreography. Missionary? Check. Cowgirl? Twice. Reverse cowgirl? I had to stretch. There was one position where I briefly questioned whether I was still human or had transformed into a sentient scorpion. At some point, she pulled out whipped cream. Whipped cream. I had never seen it used outside of cake before. She sprayed a line down her chest and seductively said, "Taste." I did. I swear for a moment I understood why colonization happened. She moaned my name like she was trying to cast a spell. Then suddenly Sultry said, "Look into the camera, baby." Camera? Yeah, for memories. Memories, she said. We got evidence, motherfuckers, so I thought. That was amazing, Sarah said, giving us both kisses on the cheek. You boys are absolutely wonderful. We'll never forget this. We'll stay in touch, Lucy promised. Maybe we'll come back to Malawi soon. Quinn and I walked home with the swagger of men who had just graduated from the University of Life with honors. We had stories that would make us legends. We had experienced international relations in the most literal sense possible. We had evidence. Brother, Quinn said as we reached the main road, I think we have just changed the course of history forever. He was more right than he knew. 1 year later, I was engaged in the solitary activities that occupy young men on boring Wednesday afternoons. Scrolling through the Pornhub looking for educational content, I saw a video title that made my heart stop. Malawian pool boys get proper British hospitality, amateur travel series. The thumbnail showed faces I recognized intimately, my own and Quinn's. I clicked on it with trembling fingers. There I was, in glorious high definition, performing with the enthusiasm of a man who had no idea he was being filmed for public consumption. And there was Quinn, looking like he was trying to solve a complicated mathematics problem while simultaneously running a marathon. The video had 47 million views. The comments were, "These guys are so enthusiastic. Love the authentic cultural exchange. Where can I book this tour?" I called Quinn with hands that shook like leaves in a hurricane. "Brother, we are famous." "You found it too?" he replied. And in those 4 words lay the confirmation of our shared destiny. Apparently, our lovely Sarah and Lucy were not merely tourists, but entrepreneurs in the adult entertainment industry, specializing in authentic travel experiences around the world. Their Brits Abroad series featured adventures in Thailand, Brazil, Kenya, and now, proudly, Malawi. We had become unwitting ambassadors of Malawian hospitality, unpaid actors in an international production we had never auditioned for. The video continued to gain views. We became internet celebrities without any of the benefits of internet celebrity. People recognized us on the street, but not in a good way. My mother's church group started praying for my soul specifically. Quinn's cousin began calling him movie star in a tone that suggested this was not a compliment. "At least we're famous," Quinn said one evening as we sat by the pool where it all began. And so, dear reader, we learned that fame comes in many forms, not all of them suitable for family gatherings. We discovered that the phrase cultural exchange can mean many things, some of them requiring government censorship. The lessons, as they say, are multiple. First, when tourists arrive with more camera equipment than the NBC television station, ask questions. Second, professional lighting in a hotel room is not a sign of luxury. It's a sign of production values. Third, when someone suggests filming for memories, clarify whose memories will be preserved and for what audience. Fourth, the internet is forever, but your dignity is not. And finally, sometimes the price of adventure is your eternal presence on the World Wide Web, frozen forever in a moment that seemed private but turned out to be very, very public. Quinn and I remain to this day accidental stars of the digital age. We learned that swimming in unfamiliar waters can lead to unexpected currents, and that sometimes when you think you're living the dream, you're actually starring in someone else's business plan. But we also learned something else, that laughter is the best medicine for embarrassment, friendship is the best cure for shame, and that every good story needs a villain, even if that villain turns out to be your own spectacular lack of judgment. We are living proof that life's greatest adventures often begin with the simplest decisions: to cool off in a pool, to talk to strangers, to say yes to the unknown. We just never expected the unknown to be quite so well documented. Thus ends the tale of two young men who went looking for relief from the heat and found international fame instead. May their story serve as a warning to future generations of poolgoers. Always read the fine print, especially when it's written in camera angles. Author's note: names have been changed to protect the innocent, though in this case, innocence may be a generous term. The pool remains open to the public, though the author and his friend now prefer to swim in rivers, where the only witnesses are fish.